Welcome, everyone, to the 20th session of Council for November 13th, 2023. As you can see, the in-person meetings have resumed with a hybrid format where members of Council and the public can still join electronically via Zoom. The meeting is being live streamed and recorded and will be available on the Township website. All rules apply to this meeting as if everyone was attending in person. And if there's a problem with the technology impacting the proceedings of the meeting may be recessed at the direction of the mayor to confirm the electronic format is performing effectively before proceeding further with the agenda. In the event of a connection or service disruption to those attending electronically, the mayor may recess the meeting to allow for attempts to reconnect. So we're calling this meeting to order at 7:01 and noting that there was no closed session before the meeting this evening. So the first item is the playing of the national anthem, and we'd ask everyone to stand that can. We acknowledge that we're being hosted on the ancestral lands of the Haudenosaunee, Mississauga, and Omama-Winini people. We acknowledge and welcome the presence of all Indigenous peoples, including the Métis, Inuit, and other First Nations from across this vast land, who also make this place home. The lands we are on today are recognized in the Truro Wampum, Dish with One Spoon Treaty, Treaty 27, and the Crawford Purchase. At this time, I would also like just to formally inform that Councillor Ennis did send his regrets for this evening, so he will not be in attendance. And Councillor Budrick has joined us virtually, so he is in the meeting. You can see him up on the screen there. He's just working with us virtually this evening. So the first item is open forum. So the first 15 minutes are set aside for open forum. Any individual may address council to voice opinion on subjects of municipal concern, excluding matters subject to public meeting. Individuals can only speak once and for no more than 3 minutes. Notice is hereby also given that under the authority of the Municipal Act 2001 and in accordance with the Ontario Municipal Freedom of Information and Privacy Protection of Privacy Act, all information provided for or at a public meeting, consultation, or other public process are considered part of the public record. We had no one register for this evening for open forum, so I'll just look to the audience in chambers. If there's anyone who wishes to speak under open forum, please come forward up to the seat here and provide your name, address, and you can speak. And just before, I'll just clarify, there are 2 public meetings this evening, one for the Village of Bath and one for County Road 4. If it's related to those, that will come in the next step under the public meeting. Okay, thank you. So if there's anyone that wishes to speak to council not related to the public meetings, please raise your hand and we can bring you forward. Being none, I just ask in the virtual audience, if there's anyone wishing to speak to council to this evening under open forum, please use the raise hand feature and we'll bring you into the meeting. Being none, thank you. So we'll move forward to the public meetings. Notice of public meeting for 9496 Main Street, Bath. It's a zoning bylaw amendment, official plan amendment, and draft plan of subdivision. The hybrid meeting is being held in accordance with the provision of sections 5120, 3412, and 1715 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, to consider an amendment to the Loyalist Township zoning bylaw 2001-38 and the official plan along with a draft plan of subdivision. The proposed amendments apply to a proposed subdivision in part of Lot 9 Broken Front Concession, being Part 1 on Plan 29R 5308 and addressed 496 Main Street, Bath. The virtual public meeting was held on November 22nd, 2021, regular council meeting. The revised development proposal before council is in response to the comments raised from the public, agencies, and township staff. The proposed draft plan of subdivision includes 19 residential units consisting of 9 semi-detached blocks containing a total of 18 units and a single detached dwelling unit. The proposed official plan amendment to the Loyalist Township official plan intends to redesignate the site from commercial to low-density residential to accommodate semi-detached dwelling units and a single detached dwelling unit. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment will rezone the property from a highway commercial zone to a residential type 4 exception zone to facilitate the development of 1 single detached dwelling unit and 9 proposed semi-detached blocks consisting of 18 semi-detached units. So at this time, council shall hear in person or by his or her counsel, solicitor, or agent, any person who claims to be affected by this application. So to start, we do have staff members here. If you want to go ahead and provide some information and introduce the next speaker.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening. My name is Dave Casemore. I'm the approvals planner for Loyalist Township. Great explanation of the application. I just wanted to add that we did have a public meeting in 2021, which the developers come back and made some adjustments. So this is the second public meeting concerning 496 Main Street. As well, we have 2 consultants here who will put on a presentation, Kyle Nielsen of Forefront Engineering and Emma Stuck of IBI Group. Other than that, I think everything else is covered.
Thank you for that. Council, any questions for staff at this time? Councilor Broderick?
I want to go to page 19 on your staff report.
And if you wish, we'll call for questions again later, if it's something that you think the consultants may provide information on. Okay, why don't we go ahead and bring the consultants forward then, and then we can take questions after that. Thank you. Sorry about that. Cart before the horse a little bit. Won't be the last. Welcome.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council. Thank you. As Dave said, my name is Emma Stuckey. I'm a planner with Arcadis now, formerly IBI Group, and are here representing the owner of 496 Main Street, Bath. I'm joined by my colleague, Kyle Nielsen, who's an engineer at Forefront Engineering. And again, we're presenting on behalf of the draft plan of subdivision official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment for 496 Main Street in the Village of Bath. So the application is for a draft plan of subdivision to create 10 new residential blocks, 9 semi-detached blocks with 18 units, and 1 single detached block. The official plan amendment is to change the designation of the property from commercial to low density residential. And the purpose of this is to permit single detached and semi-detached dwellings on the property. Zoning bylaw amendment is again required to change the zone from a commercial zone to a special exception residential zone. And this is to include site-specific provisions related to lot configuration as well as modern construction standards. Again, here's a summary of the timeline of these applications. The application was originally submitted in August of 2021. We held an open house meeting in November and then a public meeting as well in November of 2021. Since then, we've been undertaking technical review with township staff related to planning and engineering comments. So that work has been ongoing. We submitted our latest resubmission in September and are here at our second public meeting this November. And next steps are draft plan approval, which timing is to be determined. So I'm sure this is the aerial imagery of the parcel that we're referring to. This is 496 Main Street, Bath, in the Village of Bath. To the north is Bath Creek, Loyalist Golf and Country Club. To the east is the Village of Bath, various commercial uses, and low density residential uses. To the south are low density residential uses, Main Street, Bath, and further south is Lake Ontario. And immediately west is low density residential development along Country Club Lane and lands designated for aggregate. Here's some images of the surrounding site context. Primarily, the Village of Bath is single detached homes, 1 to 2 stories. There's a range of construction dates and a range of architectural styles in the village. The property itself has an area of 1.2 hectares with 93 meters of frontage. There's an existing 2-story commercial building on the property. It has a U-shaped driveway with 2 entrances to Main Street. The property around the building is generally cleared and grassy, and Bath Creek runs to the north of the property. Again, here are some specific images of the western property line, view from the property looking west, the eastern property line, and the views looking east. So here's the proposal broken out into land use blocks. So 10 residential blocks, blocks 1 to 9 for semi-detached residential uses. Block 10 is for a single detached residential use. There's a central cul-de-sac, and then the lands adjacent to Bath Creek are proposed to be open space and environmental protection. Overall density, I'll just jump in. So there's the picture of the cul-de-sac. Apologies, it's quite small when seen on this screen, but the semi-detached dwellings front around the central cul-de-sac, and then the single detached houses to the east. So in 2021, we undertook the public open house and statutory public meeting. We heard comments related to concerns with compatibility and scale, concerns with potential traffic impacts, concerns with servicing availability, concerns about open space, and concerns with stormwater management. So based on this, we've been working to update the plan. The key updates include changing the townhouse block to a single detached block. So that block to the east was originally proposed to be a townhouse dwelling with 4 units. It's been reduced to a single detached block to help with the transition from primarily single detached in the Village of Bath to the semi-detached along the cul-de-sac. We've increased the length of driveways to accommodate more parking. That was a concern we heard from members of the public. So have increased the length of driveways so that way each driveway can accommodate 4 cars as well as 2-car parking available in the garages. We've undertaken updated engineering studies to address township comments that came through the technical review and undertook a compatibility study to address proximity to the quarry. So again, here's the proposed plan of subdivision, and we'll go through some of the design considerations considered. I'm looking to provide a mix of housing types in Bath, so semi-detached as well as a single detached, maintaining a 6-meter floodplain setback for the property lines and a 15-meter floodplain setback for the buildings. We're looking to minimize the number of entrances to Main Street So we didn't increase the number of entrances. There's still 2 proposed, one with the cul-de-sac and one for the single detached driveway. And again, increasing the number of parking spaces to over 2 per unit, just to help address concerns related to possible visitor parking. So the proposal is the subdivision's plan to be serviced by municipal water and sanitary services. Loyalist has confirmed that there is sufficient infill capacity, and the servicing report provided with the application updates and addresses any local concerns. Block 11, that's the lands associated with Bath Creek. They're proposed to be environmental protection, and the owner is going to be providing cash in lieu of parkland, as Block 11 was determined not to be suitable for park and open space. Access, there's a public cul-de-sac connecting to Main Street. Each single detached dwelling and semi-detached dwellings, they do have individual driveways. The semis have individual driveways connecting to the cul-de-sac, but centralized to one street connecting to Main Street. And there are sidewalk connections that connect to the existing sidewalk network on Main Street. So here's some examples of other developments that the owner has worked on. These renderings are not exactly what is proposed, but just want to reiterate that it's intended to be a high quality product. The owner has heard concerns from the public meeting and open house that there's a desire for it to be traditional design, speaking to the heritage character of Bath. So that feedback has been heard and is intended to be reflected in the final plans for the houses. Ultimately, buyers will be choosing from different design floor plans, and landscaping will be required. We will note that the proposed dwellings are intended to be market housing. There is desirability to be attractive to seniors. However, ultimately, it will be market housing that's available to anybody. There will be a mix of slab on grade as well as basements, just depending on the topography of each individual lot after the final grading. And did hear some comments and concerns related to short-term rentals in the development, and just would like to note that the dwellings in this development will be subject to the same regulations that any dwelling would be in the township. So moving into the planning policy, overall, the proposal is consistent with the intent of the 2020 provincial policy statement as it redevelops an underutilized site in an area intended for urban development. It's within the urban growth boundary. It efficiently uses land and resources, does not result in the uneconomic extension of services. It's on a service parcel. It's adjacent to residential uses and is a residential use, so is therefore compatible with the uses, and there are no public health and safety issues anticipated as there's sufficient setbacks from Bath Creek and adequate separation from the Bath Quarry. Moving on to the township's official plan. So the property is currently designated commercial. As you can see, the red arrow pointing to the red hatch in the image. We are proposing a low density residential designation, and that is for residential property less than 31 units per hectare. The semi-detached dwelling block has an overall density of 27.27 units per hectare, and the single detached block has a density of 11.11 dwelling units per hectare. So overall, given the change from commercial to residential, it's our opinion that the proposed residential designation is more compatible in the area compared to the commercial. So the subject property is in a settlement area and was within walking distance of existing parkland, community facilities, and commercial uses in the village of Bath. Again, the proposed residential use is more compatible with adjacent properties compared to a commercial use. It will meet the functional needs of site users as parking and amenity space are provided on the site consistent with township standards. And the proposed development will help the township achieve their residential intensification targets in the settlement area of Bath. And it also complies with the land division policies, and the engineering studies submitted demonstrate that the development of the subject lands is orderly and logical with respect to servicing and access. And moving on to zoning, the property is currently within the highway commercial zone, and we're proposing a site-specific R4 residential for the entire property. For a separate special exception for the semi-detached and a separate special exception for the single detached. Block 11, the lands associated with Bath Creek, will be placed in an environmental protection zone. Here's the proposed zoning schedule. So the property will all be in the site-specific R4X zone with the Bath Creek lands in the EP zone. So here's a summary of the requested relief. Would just like to summarize by saying that overall the requested amendments are proposed in order to reflect the characteristics of the site as well as modern construction standards. So we're looking to reduce lot areas to 541 square meters. That's exclusively for block 8, 15.2 meter minimum lot frontage. This is to accommodate the pie-shaped lot configuration around the cul-de-sac. A 6-meter front yard is proposed, but we'll note that it does appear longer just based off of the area associated with the cul-de-sac that is technically still within the public right-of-way. A 2.4-meter exterior side yard is proposed, so these will be blocks 1 and 9 fronting onto Main Street, Bath. And that's proposed. It will help keep a consistent street wall along that village Main Street, and again intend to treat the site with more traditional cladding and architecture. And a 1.4-meter interior side yard is proposed for the semi-detached dwellings. This is consistent with modern standards and seen in lots of subdivisions across in the area and across Ontario. Oh, sorry, the 38.9% lot coverage is what's proposed. And the rear yard relief is requested for the rear yard as well. Apologies, there's a error on the slide. And we do need to request relief for development within 500 meters of a quarry. This is to address the township's OP policies, but it is in the urban boundary. There are residential uses closer to the quarry than this development. So no negative impacts are anticipated. And do need to request that the decks encroach into the floodplain setback. This is just for block 6. This is again to be able to increase the front yard depth to be able to accommodate more parking. It does just push those rear decks slightly into the floodplain, but the decks are going to be limited to 1.2 meters to ensure that the encroachment is minor. And for the single detached block development, again, need to permit development within 500 meters of the quarry. The lands are within the urban boundary, so this is an appropriate use of land. There's existing residential uses closer to the quarry than what's proposed. 6-meter front yards are proposed. Again, will appear deeper due to the length of the driveways. A 2.2-meter side yard on the east side is proposed. So this is the side that shares with the existing single detached to the east, and 1.5-meter side yard to the west, which will share with the townhouses, which again is consistent with modern construction standards. So no negative impacts are anticipated. So to summarize, it's my professional planning opinion that the requested amendments are appropriate as they're consistent with the provincial policy statement, conform to the official plan policies, and will be compatible with surrounding uses. Overall, the proposed development represents good planning is in the public interest. Thank you. Here's a picture of the development again, and we welcome all questions from council or public.
Council, any questions for the consultants? Councilor Pratt.
Thank you, through your worship. Just a couple of quick ones. On block 11 there, if you can put that map in front of you. 6A there where it's 6 meters from the 100-year flood plain, sorry. Yeah. So can you give me an idea from there, from the property line, which is just a bit beyond that, how from there to the back of the property, what's the distance? So just give me a ballpark.
9 meters.
How many?
9 meters.
9
from-
meters.
From
And
the
then
back of the house to the property line.
to the property line of the house?
From the back of the proposed dwelling to the property line is 9 meters.
Okay.
And then it's another 6 meters to the floodplain.
And then, so from the back of the property line to the other side, I guess, the other 100 foot, which would be deeded property to the township, how far back is that? I guess I'm not asking it very clearly. I don't see a sort of a designation to give you an idea what the buffer zone is there, I guess.
Are we talking from the 100-year floodplain to the back of the property line, or from just that whole width in the total width?
So from the property line of the, let's say, proposed housing unit
Yep. To the
To
back
the-
of the
to
existing?
the farthest back that you're gonna deed to the township, what's the distance? You have 6 meters to the floodplain. Now I'm just wondering,
It's at least 25 meters, but we'll,
okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's good enough ballpark. And another thing that it always seems to come in, and I think you're trying to address it, but parking is always the issue. So in that cul-de-sac, same map or same drawing, is there just 3 parking spots on the road that don't block people's drives, I guess? I see parking space, I see 3 of them, but
yeah. So on-road parking would be 3 parking spaces.
okay.
And that's why staff actually have asked us to increase the front house setbacks. So that four cars can actually fit in the driveways in this subdivision.
Okay, and just to extend that, 4 cars and all of them, none of them would block the sidewalk.
Correct.
Okay,
And sorry, there'd also be additional parking in the garage over and above that.
we all know how many people use their garages these days, it seems. And I did have a question, and I think you've answered it, but I just want to. So there's going to be a series of housing units in there that are on slab.
Yes, the dwelling's closer to Main Street. It's all bedrock, so
Okay.
there's a potential that those will be slab on grade.
So are we talking like four of the structures?
It's a 1, 2, 8, 9.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Any other, Counselor Willis?
Through the mayor. Did I miss here? Did you say there are going to be 2-car garages in each of the units?
Sorry, 4 exterior parkings for 2 semis.
Okay, so each one has a single
Ye-
garage?
Each one has a single garage and then 2 parking spaces per unit. And it's
Okay.
on the exterior, so 3 total.
One more. Several times you mentioned modern construction standards. What makes it so modern? How is it different than what was anticipated when the zoning bylaw was written?
Through you, through you, your worship. Modern construction standards just reflect new subdivision developments and represent direction of for residential intensification. I believe the township zoning bylaw was written in 2001. So lots changed just in terms of required setbacks and as well need for residential intensification. So these are standards that we see typically throughout the Kingston area as well as other smaller municipalities for new build construction, and represents what's been sort of established under the building code, as well as what the markets are looking for these days as well. Not everyone wants to have a very large side yard. They prefer less area. So these setbacks are reflective of that.
To you, Mr. Mayor, if I could add to that. And when we're talking relief, it's not really relief compared to any of the new development you've seen. It's relief to back in 2001. At that time, it was mostly 50-foot lots. Because the cost of land and servicing and roads, to meet the market demand, lots are much smaller these days. So to fit a house on those lots, there needs to be relief sought compared to what the zones were originally intended for.
So if I understand, it's smaller houses on smaller lots with less front yard, less backyard, less side yard to meet the demand of people that want to live that way.
Correct, but they would not be any smaller than anything you're seeing in Odessa or Amherstview in the new subdivisions.
Through the mayor again. Thank you. You note that the primary market for this is they're designed for seniors, but they're two-story buildings. I don't experience that seniors want to live in two-story buildings.
You, Mr. Mayor, the two-story buildings and the size of the lots is more of a price point. Some seniors, I agree, they may prefer bungalows, but if you actually look at how many bungalows are built in your township or in the city of Kingston, the number of bungalows is very, very few. We find seniors living in two-story buildings all over this area.
Any other questions at this time from council? Seeing none, thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
So, excuse me, at this time, we'll open the public meeting to in chambers. So we had a gentleman that was coming forward at the very beginning from the back row, if you would like to come forward. Yes. Just because you were already on your way up that time, so we'll make sure you get your opportunity. If you could just have a seat, make sure the mic is turned on. There's a button right under, there's a red button. There we go.
Right there.
And just state your name and address and provide us with your information.
My name is Mike Sewell. I live on Country Club Drive in Bath. I can essentially see the Bath Creek from my property, so I can see the back of this particular development. Thanks for having me. A couple of comments. I'm not disagreeing with the development of the property. I think it's definitely needs to be developed. But I guess I have concerns about what I've read and just heard. And I think I'm going to share in some of the other concerns that I've even heard from some of the council tonight as well. I heard the word consistent, modern, and compatible quite a bit. This is where it comes down to. I'm not sure consistent with what, modern how, and compatible to what. This particular project seems to me it's within 200 meters of the downtown, which is, in my mind, heritagely speaking, probably some of the most significant properties in Canada. And we've just put a massive renovation in the Fairfield Gutsit House, and it seems to me that represents what this town is and what this town wants to be. And I think certainly there's a lot of evidence of density in Amherstview and other places. I'm not so sure that's what Bath is. And so again, I have a little bit concerned about the compatibility. I didn't see anything in the cladding to make it compatible. I didn't see anything in the landscaping plans to make it compatible. I'm not saying that it couldn't, but I just didn't see it. I have a couple of concerns about the cash in lieu of parkland. I think there's an opportunity missed here. I think the township should be perhaps front end loading that conversation, and that might take us somewhere else, even more positive. The notion that we're going to take cash from developers and let them sort of off the hook in terms of what they're going to do in terms of parkland, green space, walkability, livability. I think there's a missed opportunity there. The management plan that's right behind that, I'm also a little concerned about that. I didn't see the Cataract Lake Conservation Authority's study. I'm curious about the setback on the floodplain. I'm still having a hard time with that. There is a small trail back there. There's a limestone berm. I'm not sure that that was addressed properly, and I do believe there potentially could be a safety issue there as well. The notion of a single family dwelling in the midst of all this also doesn't make much sense to me. I'm not sure why that would be. I think I heard already about the two-story compatibility for seniors makes no sense to me. Slope on grade. Again, I have a hard time with that. What's the long-term longevity of that? Is that how folks are really going to live? Didn't see a landscaping plan. There is a lot of indigenous materials in this area, and I think we need to be very mindful of that. And so, again, I don't want to say I'm disappointed in that already being developed. I just think from the landowner who's moved here because of what Bath is, and it's not about density in some ways for me living in Napa and Napanee in Bath. There's a lot of livability here, and there's a missed opportunity, I think, in this development to blend this into and integrate with what Bath is. And so I would ask the developers to perhaps have a focus group with some of the locals and say, can we not do this better? And sorry, I missed the 2021. I wasn't here in 2021, so I didn't take part in the first process. And lastly, this whole notion of sustainability and the parking, kind of cutting it out almost.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak, please come forward. Same thing, if you could, maybe since that mic, we were struggling a little bit with it, if you could use the other chair and the other mic, that would be. The only trouble is no one in the virtual can hear it without the mic being on.
My name is Doug Cunningham, and I live at the corner of the Caitlin's Brook Route, which is Country Club Drive, and the Highway 33 Speedway. Okay. I like the design you did on that one semi, but I believe that that's the wrong spot for this type of project. I think it's too much density for that thing. That's going to look kind of weird in there around all those old colonial style homes, the 1840 homes. And what I would think that's, I mean, it's not going to enhance the neighborhood whatsoever, but what they could do is build 6 to 8 Cape Cod style homes, bungalows, and I tell you, they would be sold immediately. This would get more property. It would look a lot better. I also think if they go with these semis, that they should cancel that single family home. It'll look absolutely awful in there. I think there's going to be some problems here, especially when the contractors are building here. There's absolutely no place to park. If they're coming to work at 7 o'clock in the morning, the trucks coming from Lafarge and going to Lafarge are going through there at 60 to 70K an hour. I know there's going to be an accident. I know there is. That's one thing. And I think personally, I put a note on Facebook on the Village News, Bath Village News. I got 140 replies. And I would think some of the councilors should go on there and look and read and see what the comments are. There are a lot of comments about us. Bath is, and the council here is moving too fast on building. And I've also were comments from the other end of Bath saying the same thing. I certainly hope that with all the urban sprawl that we're getting, that our pollution plant, our pollution plant and our water, we're going to be able to do that. That's about all I really have to say. Okay.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak? Gentleman on the end, if you'd like to come forward. Please just use that mic. It worked great. Yeah. Same thing, just turn the mic on, give your name and address and provide us with your information. Thank you.
All right, we got it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, councilors. First of all, I've submitted a written document on my thoughts. I've also furnished the planners with the same document because I believe that they should know exactly what we're talking about here. So I'll be quite brief, really. I honestly feel that developers, when they often develop plans, whether they're lawyers or they're consultants or whatever, they're looking at the legal aspect and what is important to be done, and obviously to supply their client with the biggest bang for their buck. However, I feel that councillors must take in view three things. Is it necessary? Is it safe? And is it in the best interest of the community that we're looking at? In this case, I don't think it is. First of all, there was the setback there. All they've done, from what I can see, and I'm a layperson at this, is they're pushing the cul-de-sac deeper into the property to make it bigger. So therefore, they got to push the houses back. And now they're getting closer to that 100-year floodplain. The problem there is I live against that, and I've seen that creek in the spring runoff and in heavy rains, and that water is very, very high. And what we have there in this type of community is not going to be for seniors. It's going to be for children and young families that are probably working and certainly not here, or they are maybe at the new plant, but that'd be about it. It's water's an attraction for these children, for any child. There was no mention of any fencing, like a wood fence across the back there, any type of barrier to protect them. None at all. Then they went on to talk about low density. They talked about all the low density around them, around that property. And then they said their property is low density, 19 homes on a little space like there. Again, the developers have certainly dotted all their I's and they've crossed all their T's. There's no doubt about that. And I've read all the plans and everything from the Cataraqui Conservation Authority as well. Technically, yes, there's not a heck of a lot of an issue here, okay, for them. But as councillors, you have to look at what is good for that community. This is what you want to see in the core area of Bath? And I don't think it is. Currently, there are over 200 homes that are two-story, semi-detached type bungalows, either under construction or in the process of being approved for construction in that area. All of those are in areas outside the core area and where they should be. And nobody has any complaint about that, I don't think. Anyhow, I have, just to shorten it here because I know I got my 3 minutes. I've given you this document. There are some pictures here of what I looked at, what I see in Amhertsview. The parking there, the problems they have there with the same type of configuration of homes. Westbrook, on the Westbrook Road and Princess Street, that subdivision that goes along the road there, the same issue. All the vehicles are parked out front. And when the developers talk, and I still don't understand it, 4 cars, 3 cars in each driveway or whatever they were saying there, I'm afraid it just went over my head and wasn't too sure what they were trying to impart upon us there. But anyhow, I left this with you to review it at your leisure in making decisions. I've given it to the planners as well, so they understand clearly my views, and I'm sure as some of the other gentlemen have spoken, similar views. So thank you for your time, and
Thank you. And thank you. Did you provide your name and address at the beginning, just for the record?
it's Rick and Ann Myers, 23 Country Club Drive in Bath.
Okay, thank you. And also thank you for providing the written document as well, so that we have it for our records as well. There was another gentleman, I believe, yes, in the third row, if you'd like to come up. Same thing, if you could just provide your name and address, and whoever is going to speak, if they could use the mic to well, it's my right, your left. The other one worked well. Sorry, if you move it, then it makes it so it doesn't get received with the, could you just push the button on the front? There we go.
David Salter, 130 Factory Lane. That's just to the south and east of this development. I've got a few comments, first of all, based on the developer's revised planning justification and rationale report. By paragraph here, the paragraph 4.1, the units are planned to be for senior housing. And somebody has already commented that two-story housing is probably not the first choice for seniors. Its general thoughts are that it is more likely to be starter homes for young families. And then there's also a possibility that they'd be bought up by investors and rented out, which would be rather undesirable for this area. The construction will be slab on grade, I believe. And this again might need to elevated entry to the point where a lot of other properties in Bath are many steps up to the front door, which again is not really compatible with the seniors' desire. It's supposed to help the municipality achieve intensification targets for the residential infill. I wonder what the targets are. It's also said it will appropriately intensify. I would say, who says that this is appropriate? Personally, I find it very inappropriate. And then it says, provide a range of housing types consistent with low density residential uses. There are already a large range of types within close proximity. And this is really not my definition of low density. When you look at the zoning bylaw, there's a request for relief. And there are many, many items there. Pretty well all the setbacks and the lot coverage. I wonder what is the reason for having a zoning bylaw if somebody has to request breaking that for putting in a new development. I think it points out the fact that this development is not compatible with the existing official plan. A final thing I wanted to mention is the setbacks from the 1 in 100-year flood contour. Now, I've lived in the area for 37 years on the waterfront on Factory Lane on Bath Creek. And in the last 5 years, we've had water levels approaching the 1 in 100-year flood contour, which was, I believe, arrived at by statistics going back a long, long way. I'm wondering if there's a recent update of the 1 in 100-year flood contour. Maybe the township could look into that and see if it's still relevant. Okay.
I'm Jillian Salter. I just had a few different comments to my dad. So I'm also at 130 Factory Lane. What I thought was interesting is that there's no discussion about the tree canopy. The photograph that they took of the existing property doesn't show the trees on the property. And of course, those are, I believe, all gonna have to be removed for this new housing development to go in. So I'd be concerned about the loss of trees. And the other thing is, it's not keeping in the character. This development, that we especially seeing the images that they said would be representative of their building, it's not in character with the neighborhood at all. And other development, keeping with modern construction practices in some more urban areas, they have like a if they're going to do all these semi-detached, at least there would be a bungalow in each end, like sort of like bookends, and then you put your two-story houses inside, but the end units are bungalows. So you don't get the two-story right away. And I guess it's just the other wording you hear a lot about is massing. So yeah, you're going to be driving along the street, you see single houses, and then poof, this huge development, and then single houses. So that would be, those are my three concerns: the tree canopy, it's not in character with the neighborhood, and the massing.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to speak to this item? Please come forward. You could just push the white button. It will. There you go. It's on. Just your name and address, please, and then
Beverly Hallman, 483 Main Street, which is directly across from the property we're talking about. My main concern is the parking. So we already heard that they were claiming there were 4 parking spots, but there really only 3. It doesn't look or appear that we could get 3 emergency vehicles in there at one time. If people are parking on the street, actually, there is street parking there. The other thing is, I think it's been suggested that visitors park on Highway 33, which I believe is a absolutely ridiculous idea. There are upwards of 50 big trucks moving through Bath any day, even Saturday. It's a dangerous place. If people park on the street, they could be opening their door and a truck could come by and they could be schmucked, so to speak. Anyway, I drove down the street of the same developer in Amherst to see what it looked like. And it was like driving through a maze. All of the different parking and trailers and RVs and boats all over the place. And I'm afraid that this is what will happen there as well. I just feel it's very unsafe. Just a minute. Oh, yes, and about the parking on Highway 33, there is a bike lane there. If you park on the bike lane, you're forcing the bikers right into the highway to confront a truck. And it's just very dangerous. There's also, like, besides the trucks, there's heavy machinery, there's lumber, there's supply deliveries, there's contractors, there are workmen. This small area is not being built to accommodate all of these activities that will go on at the time of the building of the houses and also after. Bath is expanding quite generously to the north. I don't know how many new houses are in there, but maybe 500. We don't need to squish all of these small little houses on Main Street. My second concern was the water and drainage, which I feel other people have covered. And I just feel the density is too much. I'm worried about landlords buying these places up and having them only for rentals, whereas people who want to buy single family homes and get into the starter business these homes will not be available to them. Yes, well, that's all I have to say for today. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Okay.
Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak this evening? Please come forward. If you can use the mic that's already turned on, and again, name, address, and provide us with your.
I'm Michael Cox, 360 Bath, Main Street. I own the ice cream store. You always have to ask yourself, when somebody's coming to Bath, what are you bringing to us? Because we're giving you things, right? This development, I think, is a nice development, but I think it's in the wrong spot. To me, that's a commercial spot where we could bring some doctors in, some outpatients. It's a commercial spot already. It's in the heart of downtown. Bus service someday will be here. So people will be able to go to this hospital or this clinic. That would be a benefit to the town. It wouldn't be as dense. It's closed at night. Parking won't be that bad. I don't know if anybody's considered this to stay as a commercial spot. Maybe you could trade the developer for another part of land and keep that commercial. I think that would be a good spot for a doctor clinic or a retirement home. That's because it would fit in. You could make it look antique, you know, you could make the building look the same as the area. It wouldn't be heavily dense with the population in a spot that doesn't have a heavy densillation. So I just made up a new word. But anyways, yeah, my concern would be also with the lack of a park there. If that money is going to go to the other parks, sure. But if it's going to go to something else, like in Amherstview or Odessa, it's not fair to Bath, because as taxpayers, we've got parks for the people that are there. And if somebody else can come in and just pay money and use our parks that we've, you know, unless they want to like put a splash pad in, or, you know, or a water fountain at the park, that'd be great for the people that use these parks. So again, there's some things that we aren't clear of where they're going. And also, if you want to mention drainage, I lived out west, and in Calgary, when they expanded and higher dense and then added to the older part of the city, when they had a heavy rainfall, the manhole covers literally left it up 20 feet in the air and flooded everybody's basements, because the newer sections have bigger septics, whereas the older system it couldn't bring that into the system because nobody took that into consideration. So these are things, but I welcome everybody to come to Bath. I love it. There's more people coming. It's a great place. There's a lot of people that are friendly. They love the town, and they're bringing their friends. So we should do it up nicely for them. We shouldn't rush in to do something the wrong way. That's all I got to say.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to speak on this item? Please come forward. If you can just, if you could just use the mic so that they can hear it.
127 Factory Lane, and I'm a newcomer. I moved here in 1977. At that time, there were a lot of, thank you. At that time, there were a lot of people here. It was a very small village, and it just oozed heritage. Bath is growing. It's growing very quickly, and we have a lot of growing pains. When addressing this particular development, I don't think I've spoken to anybody who doesn't have a concern of one sort or another, or absolutely opposes this kind of development in Bath for a number of reasons. And the people who came before me were very eloquent in their concerns, and I agree with them. There's a dramatic impact on the existing quality of life that's proposed here for a small village that has deep roots in heritage and a sense of belonging. The environmental protected area is one that concern that I have. Flooding was one of the things that was brought up here. I think, I'm not sure if there's an easement proposed for the village, for the township to get to that area, if need be. And I think that's very important if it's not there already. And also whether that whole area will be fenced off. I didn't see anything, actually addressing that. I might have missed it, but I think it would be important, especially with the concerns about flooding and the more hazardous conditions that we're experiencing now. The main concern that I think I've seen is this capacity increasing the capacity in such a small area of development. I understand that this particular development will take up all the infilling capacity that we have in the area. We had 20 lots initially before expanding the water treatment plant, and that enabled us to infill 20 services in the village. And I think this will pretty well taken them all. If that's still the case, that might have changed, but I understood that that was one of the blessings of the water treatment plant increasing capacity to infill in the village. This will take it all, if that's the case. I have a concern about the way any development in the village appears to the people in the village who have a very close concern with it, and the people coming through the village as well, as we want to make and ensure that Bath is a destination for people to come to visit, to live, to raise their families, and to enjoy retirement too. I think always something that we wanted to think about. Those are the concerns that I've seen, and some of them are very passionate and real, I think, and that's something that's very difficult, I think, for council to deal with. The responsibility that you have in a decision like this has a dramatic impact on the population. The last thing I wanted to ask is, do you have a drop dead date for a decision? Is there some timeline to take into account now all the decisions or recommendations from departments, agencies, and everybody who's made submissions today? How long will it take for the planning department to pull that together, and what council meeting will it be tabled at?
And I'll just try to address that final question there, since it was a very direct question and one that I believe we can respond to this evening. As a recommendation indicates, we're receiving all of the information that this evening, and it's being taken forward by staff. Staff are writing feverishly, making note of all of the comments, and when it actually is coming back to council, I haven't seen a date for that, a definite date. There's been a lot of information provided this evening, and there's going to be some fine tuning and some documents, if I remember correctly, in the report, still have some peer review to be completed. So once that's all done, then it would come back again, but I don't have a definite date.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to speak to this item? You know the drill. Just use the one that's turned on and we'll name and address. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Joy Silver. I live at 385 Main Street, Bath. I own one of those old houses back from the 1850s, just down the road from this development. And since I've lived around there my whole life, I've watched this be a bar 3 times. Started off as the Anchor, then the Penguin, then Susie Q's, as the history goes. I've been on this property a lot because I used to know the owner of the property and I used to do some landscaping for him. So I knew about the Bath Creek going through the back and the easement and everything and how it was back there, not knowing exactly what he owned or what the township owned. As the golf course came over, they assumed the other side of the creek, how it is. I was on the property today and walked through it, and my concerns are the Bath Creek going through it. They say now they keep changing this new development. I'm in favor of the development. I'm not sure that it should be so many houses, but right now the old bar is an eyesore. It's probably quite dangerous. I see it's all boarded up. don't know if there's not somebody even living in there, Warden in there or something, but, my concerns are too, the building needs to come down, and when it does come down, as my brother was in there for a fire once, there's asbestos probably in the building and everything. So we need to make sure that that building gets disposed of properly, where it needs to go. So that's a huge concern of mine, the disposal of the property of the old building, to start with. That the property gets cleaned up proper. And then, like Joe said, the township's gonna need an easement to the creek from there. If they block it all off and you can't get to the creek, it won't be good because you can't get from the other side either. So as most of you know, I was a big supporter of the parks and sat on the committee for many, many years. So I don't like it when we get money in lieu of parkland. You know, we can never get that back, that 5%. So like people have been telling you, we either need to put that parkland into there, put an easement through the middle of it down to the creek or something. You can't just block it all off. So I'm not sure where that should be down to the creek, but that needs to be looked at before you just dump those houses in there, because that's environmentally protected land. You can't get to it any other way. So before we come here and dump these houses on the middle of the main street, which is historical all around it, we need to just stop and think, you know, if we could just stop a couple houses from going in and make an easement down there, just need to calm this development down a little bit, because there are people around it and their lots are quite big. So it would look awful different setting on the main street to have this. I own a business on the main street, so I like the housing happening, and it's happening all around us. But it doesn't have to be crammed down us on the main street. So we really have to go over everything here. As you see, the people behind me are quite concerned. We don't usually get this many people from the village in here, and because they live around it. So let's just stop and slow this one down. Let's get the parkland or something to do with easement onto that property before this is all developed, and then we can't do nothing, and then that's all blocked off, and we'll be sorry. We can't change it after they build it. So let's stop it now and get it done right. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to speak to this item? Seeing none, I'll turn to the virtual audience. If there's anyone in the virtual audience that wishes to speak to this item, if you could use the raised hand feature, we will bring you into the meeting. Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, I don't know how to turn on my camera, but I wanted to make some comments for the record. My name is Kelly Park, and I live at 157 Church Street in Bath.
Okay, please proceed with your information.
So I have some comments about the proposed development. Starting with, I believe that there's too many separate building blocks proposed for the size of the site, and that the houses are too big for each block. I believe that the original setbacks exist for good reason, and I request council that they don't allow these setback adjustments to be made or approved for the rear, side, and front yards. As some other people have commented, modern construction buildings may be what is being built in other towns or maybe what is popular, but those modern standards might not be and are not right for Main Street of Bath. I also have concerns with the money in lieu of parkland. I think there's an opportunity for park space and green space, and that should always be included in any development that's being considered for Bath. And I think by decreasing the number of residences or blocks and that being used for green space would be a better use of the space. And I also think it's important that the trees along the road that are currently there need to be protected and kept, not replaced, because you can't replace the age of those trees. And I do want to say that I support the need for multi-unit residences in Bath. I think that's important in any place. And obviously there is a need for more housing. But this style of 2.5-story homes and the 9 different large blocks, I do not believe is appropriate for the development, this proposed development in the location that it is. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you for providing that information. So I just speak to the virtual audience again. If there's anyone else in the virtual audience that wishes to speak, if you'd use the raise hand feature, we can bring you into the meeting. No one else? Very good. So thank you everyone for bringing forward the information this evening. We appreciate it. So the next steps now is we do have a recommendation in the report that I'll present to council, and that will wrap up the public meeting for this portion of the agenda. So excuse me. The recommendation with the report is that the report from the Development Services Division, November 13th, 2023, read public meeting, RY Contractor Inc. and Legacy Homes Draft Plan of Subdivision, D12-292-2021, Official Plan Amendment, D09002-2021, and Zoning Bylaw Amendment, D14-009-2021. Be received, and that a recommendation be brought forward to council once comments from the township departments, agencies, and public have been addressed. Do I have a mover? Councillor Broderick. So moved, seconded by Deputy Mayor. Mover, any comments? Seconder? Anyone else? Being none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Thank you, everyone. And if you wish to stay for the remainder of the meeting, please feel free. We also understand if you wish to vacate now, please just do so fairly quietly. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is a public meeting. If you could just take the conversation outside, please. The meeting is still ongoing. The next item up is a public meeting for 1214 County Road 4. We have staff here present. Do you have some information to share this evening?
Through you, Your Worship, I'll give you a quick overview of the application. So the staff report has 2 rezoning applications, and both the applications is a condition over provisionally approved consent applications for the subject property 1214 County Road 4 and 1280 County Road 4. Both the applications have been reviewed along through provincial policy statement, both the county and township official plan and the zoning bylaw. As well as the application has been circulated to all the relevant department and agencies and the members of public, and there has been no objections or concerns. So for this reason, the staff is recommending approval of this applications. Thank you.
Thank you. I still forget to turn my mic on. So with that, this is a public meeting this evening. I was just checking to make sure there wasn't the notice. So is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to this evening? Seeing none? Yeah, just If there's anyone in the virtual audience who wishes to speak to this item, if you could use the raised hand feature, we can bring you into the meeting. No one? Okay, thank you. Council, are there any questions for clarification this evening on this? Being none, the recommendation is a report from the Development Services Division, November 13th, 2023. Read public meeting recommendation 1214 County Road 4, Howard Graham zoning bylaw amendment D14-012-2023 and 1280 County Road 4, Tim and Victoria Friesen zoning bylaw amendment D14-013-2023 be received in the bylaw number 2023-079, being a bylaw to amend the rural zone to rural industrial exceptional 4 rural for the subject property at 1280 County Road 4, D14-012-2023, and from rural industrial exception 4 zone to rural zone for the subject property of 1214 County Road 4, D14-013-2023 be enacted and passed. Do I have a mover? Councillor Budrick, so moved, seconded by Deputy Mayor. Any comments from the mover? Seconder, anyone else? Seeing none, call the question. Motion is passed. Thank you. So we have the confirmation of the agenda. No additions or revisions. So the recommendation is that the report of the agenda of November 13th, 2023 be adopted as circulated. Do I have a mover? Councillor Parks, seconded by Councillor Prodrick. All in favor? Motion is passed. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof this evening? Seeing none. Delegations and presentations. Okay, it's a virtual one, okay? Good evening, Patrick. Can you hear me?
Yes, good evening. It just came through.
Okay. You are now in the council chambers. Thank you. There we go. Now we can see you too. So you've got a presentation for us this evening?
I do, yes. Thank you, Your Worship and council members. I will just share my screen. One moment. Just please let me know when you're able to see it.
Yes, we can see it now. Please proceed.
Great, thank you. My name is Patrick Godfrey. I'm a project development manager at Northland Power. And Northland Power is currently in the process of developing a battery energy storage system in the township. And I'll refer to this technology as BESS throughout the presentation. And the purpose of the presentation this evening is just that, to give a presentation to Your Worship and Council and bring you up to speed on some of the developments of the project since we initiated it. So throughout the presentation tonight, I'll do a quick intro on Northland Power. I'll talk a little bit about one of the projects that we're currently building in the province, just to showcase what this looks like during construction, and that it is currently the only project of this nature under construction in the province. I'll speak a little bit about LT1, which stands for Long-Term 1 procurement that's being run at the moment by the Independent Electricity System Operator, and I'll refer to the term IESO during presentation for that entity. At that point, I'll go into a Bath project overview to talk a little bit about the details of the project that we're developing, and then just conclude with next steps. So very quickly, a little bit about Northland Power, which some of you may be familiar with already. Northland is a leading global power producer based in Canada with head office in Toronto. The company has almost 40 years of experience developing, constructing, and operating power projects across the country and globally. We're involved in several markets with over 16 gigawatts of development in our pipeline and over 3 gigawatts of operating capacity across various technologies. We have a very experienced team of developers from all stages of development as well as through construction and operations, work closely together on these projects to see them through. We have a strong environmental and health and safety record. We are the majority owners, as I mentioned at the start of the presentation in the intro, of Canada's first in construction battery energy storage facility called the Oneida Energy Storage Project. Touch on very quickly during the presentation. And then in addition to that project, we do have 4 onshore wind farms, 13 ground mount solar sites, 4 rooftop solar sites, and 4 natural gas facilities in Canada. Altogether, our focus is to build strong relationships with local communities and Indigenous people, and these are rooted in Northland's values and core principles as a business. As I mentioned, the Oneida Energy Storage Project, and it's a 250 megawatt, 1,000 megawatt hour advanced stage lithium ion battery energy storage facility located in Haldimand County. It is expected for 250,000 homes, and my internet is a bit unstable, so apologies. We did partner on this project with Six Nations group of the Grand River Development Corporation and work closely with Haldimand County on this project. There are up to 200 local jobs during construction that peak at various stages of construction, and is anticipated to generate hundreds of thousands of hours of local employment in the region as well. So just wanted to showcase this project is the first in construction stage project in the province, and we're looking to leverage a lot of our experience with this project in particular in Loyalist Township. On this slide, you'll see some pictures of the pouring of foundations that will support they are Tesla Megapacks, roughly 280 Tesla Megapacks for this project. So quite a few foundations for this project. And the overall length of construction that we're anticipating is of roughly 2 years from start of construction to commercial operations, to give you a sense of the duration of the construction period. With the ISO LT1 procurement, we are in a position with the ISO where we're ramping up to a bid deadline of December 12th, where the ISO is targeting 1,600 megawatts of storage, and they're looking to procure across the province at this point. They are requiring as a mandatory item municipal support for these projects. And as I'm sure some of you are well aware, there are many groups in the province that are conducting public consultation and presenting to council to garner support for these projects. So what is BESS? These are many, many batteries stored in modules within a container that you see in the picture here. And they are used to provide reliability and resiliency to the grid by collecting surplus electricity during off-peak times, storing that electricity and discharging during periods of high demand. So it's taking a lot of the surplus electricity that's on the grid at any point in time, storing it, and then discharging during periods of high demand, where otherwise that potential generation could have been lost for various reasons and not utilized. The projects themselves consist of many of these rows of modular containers and outdoor rated enclosures the size of shipping containers. And typically for the projects that we're seeing in this procurement at a large scale, you're looking at anywhere from 100 to 500 megawatts. And in cases where this may be using up to 25 acres of land as a project footprint. Northland Power sees benefits to Loyalist Township in that these projects do align with the Resilient Loyalist Township Climate Action Plan to develop alternative sources of energy and reduce carbon emissions. As I mentioned, it does support with peak loads and maximizes the use of generation sources and helps to avoid blackouts. Does create local jobs in the community. We're seeing this on our existing project in Haldimand County. I would anticipate it in future projects as well. And there is the opportunity for further revenue sources from these projects within the township, from a change in property tax ratings, as well as the reliability and resiliency that it will provide for future homes and businesses to ensure a constant, reliable source of electricity in the future. Moving to the next slide, this is a conceptual layout of the project. And I should note that we ran our public consultation open house last Thursday night at the Amherst Community Hall, where we showcased this layout to the community. You'll see here that the project is situated adjacent to Highway 4, just north of the CN Railway and just south of the Hydro One or Honey transmission corridor. So it's situated between Millhaven Road and Taylor Kidd Boulevard. The project land area is roughly 50 acres that you'll see in yellow here. And the project footprint itself will only take up around 10 to 15, possibly 20 acres of land, depending on final design. And we are taking into account the various setbacks from an environmental perspective and other township or county setback requirements as well. And we've been in touch with staff to start to identify some of these setback requirements and other considerations as we go through the planning approval process. We will have a POI station that connects the project to the grid here, and we're in contact with Honey over what a typical connection could look like for this project. And we will have discussions with Honey on more specifics around interconnection if the project was to receive a contract award from the ISO. In addition to the project footprint description, we have conducted a number of environmental constraints analyses, field investigations, geotechnical studies are ongoing now to understand the soil and water quality at this property. We are in discussions with First Nations and Indigenous communities around this project, and we will continue to conduct further studies around noise to ensure that we are taking appropriate measures as far as noise mitigation is concerned. However, you'll see here from this image that the project footprint is set back quite a ways from local residents or other potential noise receptors. So we've taken that into consideration in the conceptual plan as well. Then just moving on, so safety comes up quite a bit in our discussions with residents, local stakeholders around fire safety and risk. So we do develop rigorous emergency response plans and fire management plans, like we are at our Oneida project that I mentioned earlier. Quite a bit of detailed coordination with the local fire department and local stakeholders. And I should mention that the battery containers and the technology that you're seeing that will come out into the marketplace once this procurement rolls around is cutting edge. Top tier manufacturers have spent a lot of time on fire safety, and these systems are contained. So they're contained within the modules within the storage container, and they're also contained at the storage container itself. So it is unlikely that there would be potential for a fire to spread to a local adjacent container or further, because there are preventative measures even before a fire takes place to ensure that it does not, but also if it were to, that it can be easily managed when it does occur. So there will be more coordination with the fire chief around this. We've spoken initially a few times, but it's a topic that comes up that we like to take extra precaution over. As far as overall project next steps, as I mentioned earlier, there is a December 12th bid to the ISO that we're preparing for. We look to continue to work on our class environmental assessment for minor transmission facilities now during the bidding process and hopefully after if we're successful. And we will continue with our concept and design, incorporating our feedback from engineering, our noise modeling, and further environmental field work that we will conduct. Earlier, I mentioned that we ran our public consultation on Thursday, November 9th. We received a lot of interesting questions and comments around fire, as I mentioned above, but just also generally from local adjacent property owners, and just what is the technology about, what is the impact to me, and what is the process for the ISO, and then afterwards in terms of timeline, which we will all be posting on our website shortly here as well if we haven't already. As you may know, these projects require municipal support in order to be delivered. So we've presented to staff our interest to pursue the municipal support resolution at council. At this meeting, just present the project and hope to follow up at the next regular council meeting to further understand if these municipal support resolutions will be granted, and to ultimately be in a position to provide that with our bid before December 12th. Believe that is it for the presentation, and if there are any questions later, feel free to ask them to me.
Thank you. Council, any questions this evening? Councillor Willis.
Through your worship, thank you for your presentation. I was reading an article this morning about the electric battery storage facility in Chaumont, New York that caught fire on July 27th, and that it burned for 4 days, and people needed to be evacuated because of the toxic emissions from that fire. How is your project different than that one?
The projects that we will develop will be with top tier battery energy storage suppliers with all of the lessons learned to date incorporated in their design as well as their management plans for preventing fires as a first step. So identifying any possible source of temperature increase as an example, and immediately shut it off. And then further, if that does not, if that's not successful, the technology has enhanced to ensure that it is contained to a specific module within a container and will be consumed at that module, meaning a much smaller fire than it potentially could have been at that facility that you described. And then beyond that, again, it's maintaining a response around the container and ensuring it does not spread to another container. And the policies that are in place from suppliers currently that we're seeing do ensure 24/7 access to the supplier to walk through any measures that may need to be taken by the response team at a given time if a fire does occur. So it's lessons learned that we are seeing applied in technology that is coming from top tier suppliers at the moment.
Councillor Broderick and then Councillor Parks.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. Patrick, just a couple of questions. Is this project, if it gets the go-ahead, will it, when it's fully up, have 24-hour staff on site, or it'll all be sort of monitored by a computer?
We're still working on those plans. There will be 24/7 remote operating, but also staff that will be readily available for various services at site. I should mention that Northland Power's operations team is based within the region. It's based out of Kingston, with residents and staff based in Loyalist Township as well. So where there are resources or shared resources on the project, there will be 24/7 remote monitoring, but also local resources that will be dedicated or shared to support the operations of the facility.
A couple quick ones. You had mentioned, and I'm paraphrasing, if I'm doing it badly, my apologies. This whole system, or any of these systems, are geared to avoid blackouts. Is that a province-wide thing, or is that specific to a general region when, we get to that stage, if you have to avoid those blackouts?
I would say to answer that question, it would most likely be localized, and the ISO as a system operator would determine in conjunction with ONI how to manage broader system implications.
And just one more, I'm a visual guy, so how many megawatts would at full capacity, and could you translate into maybe the number of homes that might power, just to give me an idea?
A good rule of thumb in some cases, and one uses different resources, 250 megawatts could translate into approximately 250,000 homes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Patrick, for your presentation. Just a couple of quick questions and following up on Councillor Willis's comments about the fire. I was wondering about possible leakage from these. I'm sorry, I'm not understanding how the ion batteries work, but is there toxic chemicals in there that can leak out of these battery pack units that are stored on site?
There is glycol for cooling. And again, if there were to be an event, it would be self-contained, shut off, and it would be addressed at that point in time. There is a low risk that there would be any more significant leakage into the property or adjacent property owner, aquifer systems, what have you. Would be very localized and an event that could be addressed quite readily.
Thank you. The other question that I had was in relating to noise. So the battery storage units feed into the main power lines that are along that area. Is there noise created, that static noise that sometimes people comment about that live close to high power lines? Would that be a concern?
The systems do generate noise primarily through the cooling of the transformers, fans that will be used to cool. And for these projects, what you want to do is ensure the appropriate setbacks from noise receptors from homes or other establishments, and significantly. And this project has set back significantly to ensure that when we do our noise modeling with various supplier technologies, that those decibels at those noise receptors are below the provincial threshold for this type of technology, this type of project.
Councillor Budrick.
I didn't see anything on the map with in relation to distances, what is the closest resident to this project?
Their residence is to the southwest and northwest that are from our project footprint, approximately 500 meters away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's all I needed.
Any other questions? Deputy Mayor.
Through you, Your Worship. Thank you, Mr. Godfrey. Can you elaborate a little more on the kinds of jobs and the kinds of numbers of jobs that the project will create that you referred to in the presentation?
Thank you for that question. During construction, your typical construction jobs from civil, electrical, mechanical to operational jobs as well, project plant managers, technicians, safety, health and safety, those types of jobs that are typical of a project of this nature.
Any other questions from council? Councillor Willis.
Through your worship. Those are the jobs during construction. Once the project's commissioned, how many full-time employees would be on site on this project?
In terms of full-time staff on site, it's not common to see that. We will have more or less shared resources out of our Kingston Operations Center, working on providing the site maintenance, security, etc. And those numbers during operations range from 10 to 20 positions to monitor the project, operate the project, perform site maintenance, perform replacement of parts, etc.
Not related to that at all, but what would your timeline be for the construction?
At this point, what we're targeting is communication from the ISO of a contract award Q1 or Q2 of 2024. From that point, we would be looking to continue with development up until the end of 2024 and moving into 2025. At around mid-2025, we'd be looking to start construction. And it's about a 2-year construction schedule. That's a target schedule that we're looking to deliver on this project, subject to the ISO sticking to the timelines that they've communicated for contract award. And they're looking for projects to be online around May 2028 for this particular LT1 procurement.
Any other questions from council? I had some of mine answered already, but I just have a few of my own. I didn't see in here this evening, what is the duration of the contract that would be awarded?
It's a 20-year term.
Okay. So at the end of the 20-year term, will there be a decommission plan before, like during the planning phase now? Or is that, what's your plans on decommissioning, I guess is the question.
Yeah, that's correct. The decommissioning plan would be developed during development and ready for the 20 years down the road, post COD, post commercial operations date.
Okay.
Alternatively, of course, if there's the opportunity to renew the facility, there's also that as the alternative to decommissioning after that 20-year term.
Okay. For me, in some of these projects, the decommissioning is just as important or more than the commissioning, because once the money stops coming in, we want to make sure that it's taken care of. You'd mentioned emergency response plans, I guess, for the lack of I think that's the term you used, to be provided to our first responders. Do you have an emergency preparedness and mitigation plan for the site?
For this specific project, we do not have that developed yet. We have been in the process of developing it for our first project in construction. And that's in conjunction with the local fire department, the municipality, and us as a project owner. And we would look to replicate that type of plan for this project and build on the lessons learned from the current project as well.
And that plan would be, sorry, go ahead.
These plans, just to add, are tailored to the supplier and the supplier plans that they have for the technology that they will provide at that point in time as well. And each one is specific to that technology. So those are some of the nuances that you may see from technology to technology when developing plans, but they're all broadly similar.
Okay, so that plan would be completed before commissioning then?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. I noticed the property is 50 acres, but the projected the property owned would be 50 acres, but the project area would be 15 to 20. Is that for a buffer or is that for future expansion?
That's taking into consideration the known setbacks and constraints that we have on the site. There are setbacks that are provided as guidelines from HONI that we must comply with. Setbacks from noise through the noise modeling that we've been doing, as well as any environmental setbacks that have been identified in our constraints mapping and field studies. So that's basically taken the total 50 acres and then has carved it into the footprint that you were seeing. And we currently looking at the constraints and the design of a 250 megawatt project would account for some buffer at this point, yes.
Okay, thank you. And my final question, unless something comes to me. You'd mentioned there was a note in here about passing a resolution this evening, but you also commented, I just wanted to confirm that you were aware that staff were bringing a report to council at the next regular meeting, which would be addressing these, and at that time, council would be potentially looking at endorsement or not?
That's correct. That's my understanding.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions from council? If not, we could entertain a motion to receive. That's moved by the deputy mayor, seconded by Councillor Parks. Any final comments? No one? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Thank you very much, Mr. Godfrey, for providing the presentation.
Thank you, Your Worship. Have a good evening.
Okay. The next item we have before us is the adoption of the minutes of the 19th session. So the recommendation is that the minutes of the 19th session, regular council, October 23rd, 2023, be adopted as circulated. So before I take a motion, were there any errors or omissions noted? Seeing none, so it is as circulated. Do I have a mover? Councillor Broderick, so moved, seconded by Councillor Budrich. Any comments? Call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. The regular council minutes of October 23rd. Were there any errors or omissions noted by council? Yes. I just did that. I'm doing it twice. Thank you. So the next item then, sorry, I should have caught that when I saw you walking up. The Amherst Scholarship Fund. Is there any additional information this evening or just here to respond?
Nothing further, Your Worship.
Thank you. Are any questions for clarification from council? Seeing none. Okay, make sure I had the right report. That the recommendation is that the report from the Finance Division dated November 13th, 2023, read 2023 Amherst Scholarship Fund be received and the council approve that each of the three eligible applicants receive $845.55 from the Amherst Scholarship Fund. Do I have a mover? Councillor Willis, so moved, seconded by Counselor Bublick. Any comments from the mover?
Through your worship, just to say that we're very grateful that this fund exists and to offer congratulations to the 3 women who are receiving the scholarship this year.
Thank you. Any comments from the seconder? None? Anyone else? I'd just like to say it is a nice thing to be able to help our future our scholars at this time are going to be future experts in their field. With that, call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. W.J. Henderson Recreation Center Arena Plant Emergency Repair. Thank you. Any additional information at this time?
Nothing further at this time, just questions.
Any questions from council for clarification? Councilor Prime.
Thank you, your worship, and through you, just a couple of, so right now the system is working with, even though that rotor's cracked? And is there just,
Rain still went up. Through you, your worship, that's correct.
and there's only one road, like, I don't know how it works. Is there just one dehumidifier working right now, or is there more than one?
Through your worship, there's one of those units.
Okay. All right, that's it. Thank you.
Any other questions for clarification from council? Seeing none. The recommendation is that the report from the Community and Customer Services Department, November 13th, 2023, read W.J. Henderson Recreation Center Arena Plant Emergency Repair, be received, and that council authorize a capital transfer of $34,599 from cost center 230010 Leisure and Activity Center Accessibility Universal Washroom Project to the W.J. Henderson Recreation Center to fund the emergency replacement of the dehumidifier rotor wheel. Do we have a mover? Deputy Mayor, so moved. Seconded by Councilor Parks. Any comments from the mover? Seconder?
No.
Anyone else? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Emergency services, procurement of a fire pumper replacement. Evening, Chief. Do you have any additional information at this time?
Nothing at this time, your worship.
Thank you. Any questions for clarification from council? Councilor Broderick.
To get this in before the chief retires. So they call them first run pumpers. There's 2 of them, right? Or is there more than 2? There's 2 of them that need work.
Through your worship to Councilor Broderick, every station, every mainland station has a front run pumper. Underwriters require our front run pumpers to be newer than 15 years. Second run pumpers can be up to 25 years of age. So we get another 10 years of life out of second runs.
Okay. And so the one that's prohibited to repair, I'm using that terminology. I don't know if that's exactly what you use. Can we get anything for that anywhere?
Through your worship, the last couple of surplus trucks that we have tried to sell, one we got $5,000 for, one we could have got more if we sent it to Kimco and sold it for scrap rate, and council approved one to send to the Dominican Republic. So this current vehicle isn't drivable. You can't drive it with the pump broke, so it's probably gonna have to go to a wreckers.
Okay, fair enough. And just so in the way of thinking, first one becomes a second one. What happens to the second ones? Are they still around, or do you get rid of them, or what happens?
Through your worship, the second run truck that's currently in the village of Bath is a year 2000, so it's quickly coming up on its life. It's still around in a good working truck. The truck, the 1993 truck, 30-year-old truck that the pump went out of, was a good working truck. We had no inclination it was having pump problems at all until it just failed.
Thank you.
Any other questions for clarification? Councillor Willis.
Through your worship, you mentioned the first run trucks have an age requirement on the mainland. Is there a different requirement on the island?
Any fire station that responds to less than 100 fire-related calls a year, underwriters have no requirements for really anything. Yeah, there isn't even an actual requirement to have a fire truck there.
Any further questions for clarification? Councillor Parks.
Thank you, Your Worship, to the fire chief. So the first one, I understand it's being replaced, or the request is to have it replaced right away. We're in the second one because of the chassis and is it like a bulk buying type of thing?
Through your worship to Councillor Parks, the truck industry has been in a turmoil since COVID and trying to get vehicles. We've seen it with Public Works trying to procure snowplows and snowplow chassis. Fire trucks are the same. After July of 2024, all large trucks, commercial vehicles being made are undergoing a major engine change and an emission standards change, which is going to add 5 to 8% or 8 to 10% to the price of the chassis, which is about 5% to the total vehicle price. So us accelerating the purchase of the second one, we will get a early built 2024 chassis, which will be before the price increase, which is why the builder was able to give us a very, very close ballpark figure on what the truck would be worth. The reason for the price range was basically it's a US built truck, and he's just taking into account the US dollar, how it could fluctuate. So, but we're probably going to save $50,000 to $60,000 minimum by going ahead early. So.
Thank you. So essentially, you're just asking for pre-approval, the budget, for this?
Through your worship to Councillor Parks, when we did budget in January of this year, we got pre-budget approval for 2024 for the first one. But we made council aware at that time that within our 2024 budget was a second pumper, so they were made aware that both pumpers would be coming in 2024. So yeah, we're asking for pre-budget approval again.
Any other questions for clarification? I just have one, and it's because I can't remember. With Public Works, we went with a certain model or certain make of trucks for ease of, parts, stocking parts and knowledge for working on them. Did we implement anything like that in the fire department?
Actually, no, because of the tendering process, but with this standardized purchasing, this will have 5 of our 6 vehicles will be Spartans. So they're basically have been standardized without even trying.
Okay, thank you. If there's no further questions for clarification, the recommendation with the report is that the report from the Emergency Services Department, November 13th, 2023, re-procurement of fire pumper replacements be received, and that council approve the purchase of a fire pumper from Dependable Emergency Vehicles at a cost of $706,316 plus HST be delivered in the spring of 2024. And council approve the purchase of a fire pumper from Dependable Emergency Vehicles at an estimated cost of $740,000 to $800,000 plus HST be delivered before the end of 2024. Do we have a mover? Deputy Mayor, so moved, seconded by Councillor Booker. Any comments from the mover? Seconder? Anyone else? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Air monitoring station. Not the bath. Oh, any additional? Yeah, it's still on. Any additional information at this time?
Nothing at this time, Your Worship.
Any questions for clarification from council? Seeing none. The recommendation is that the report from Emergency Services Department, November 13th, 2023, Air Monitoring Station, MECP, be received and the council approve the CAO to enter into an agreement with the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks for the temporary installation of an air monitoring station at the Bath Fire Station. Do we have a mover? Moved by Councillor Parks, seconded by Councillor Willis. Any questions from the mover? Yep, or comment, sorry. Yes.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to thank I guess the staff to bring this forward. I think it's something that's important with a couple of the plants that are to the west of the village of Bath to have this there, and hopefully we can continue to improve the air quality.
Seconder, any comment? Anyone else? Just one question that just hit me. Do we have access to the results of it? Or will we at the end of the term?
I don't know, but I can find out. I would imagine so.
Okay.
It should be public information.
I'm assuming it would go be public information, but yes, Councillor Parks.
Thank you, Your Worship. We may actually have access to it through some of Lafarge. This is long-term Lafarge also through the liaison committee that we sit on.
I just wasn't sure because this is owned by MECP, so I wasn't sure if it would be shared with Lafarge or not, but
I'm sure.
It was
I'm
just.
sure if there's concerns, there will be.
Yeah, it was just more of a curiosity question. So with that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Any notice of motion this evening being proposed? Seeing none, any direct motion being proposed? Seeing none, we're at the consent agenda. All the items in the consent agenda can be passed at once, but noted individually unless someone wants to extract an item. Is there any item that the council wishes to extract this evening? Seeing none, the recommendation is that the items in the consent agenda dated November 13th, 2023 be approved as presented and that the necessary action be taken. Do I have a mover? Councillor Parks, so moved, seconded by Councillor Willis. Any comments from anyone? Being none, call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Updates from members appointed to county council committees and local boards. Are there any members that have information this evening to provide to council? Deputy Mayor.
Yes, thank you. Just briefly through you, Your Worship, I just want to address, as there are comments flying around on social media pertaining to the decision made by County Council last Wednesday, November 8th, approving a decision for the county to enter into a 3-year contract agreement with Medavie Health Services. I just want to clarify 2 particular points. One is Lennox and Addington County is not privatizing its paramedicine services. The county has entered in to an agreement for management services with Medavie. So basically and specifically the role of the chief of emergency services, but the chief will still be answering to the CAO. And everybody else in the paramedic services will be continue to be employees of Lennox and Addington County. So on a day-to-day basis, nothing changes there. Medavie is not a private corporation. They are not for profit. And so, Lennox and Addington County is not using tax dollars to bankroll the pockets of a private company. Again, that is some of what's out there. What I would encourage, if there are any residents who have concerns about the contract within Loyalist Township, to reach out to either myself or the mayor, and we can provide any further clarity on that. But I just wanted to make those 2 particular points. We are not in LNA privatizing our paramedic services. That is not what is happening at this time, and that is not what County Council is seeking to have happen. Medavie does provide full contract services, mainly in the East Coast. I think it's New Brunswick, PEI, and Nova Scotia, I believe, all have all of their paramedic services contracted to Medavie. So there are lots of different models that they do have throughout the country. That particular model is not what LNA has signed up for and has no intention at this time to sign up for.
Thank you. And I think you may have mentioned it, but it's a 3-year contract at this time that we've agreed to. So it does have an end date as well, or a reconsideration date. Councillor Project.
Just a brief one, your worship. This week, Cataraqui Region Conservation Authority will have its last administrative meeting at the site that has been there for many years and be moving to a new site north on Montreal Street, I believe it is. It's basically the site of where the Fairmount home is. So we're up to date with new technology and new everything, but moving day is soon.
Thank you. Any other items? Councillor Budrick.
The tax commission will be sending forward the agreement that we've agreed to as staff to our council about the pilot program and the parameters for our accessible transportation route coming hopefully by the next meeting.
Thank you. Any other items to be brought forward this evening? Seeing none. Members' privilege. Any items to come forward this evening under members' privilege? Councillor Project.
Thank you, your worship. Just a shout out to numerous organizations, Amherst Island Radio for the donation from their bingo charity of $8,000 to the local legions. Amherst U Golf Club's red shirts, of which Councillor Budrick is a member, donated just over $3,000 also to the Legion. And again, obviously, shout out to all the local Remembrance Day ceremony organizers in Wilton and Bath. And whether I did this or not, or whether it's Santa Claus Parade too, the Lions Club. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other items? Councillor Willis.
Mine's a little sadder. I wanted to express condolences to the family of Dr. John Schutzbach, who passed away recently. He was a professor at Queen's University, a world-renowned glycobiologist who often worked alongside his wife, Dr. Inka Brockhausen. On the island, he was a founding member of the Men's Society, the Waterside Summer Series, was very active with Amherst Island Radio when it began. So condolences to Inka and John's children and grandchildren.
Thank you. Any other items to bring forward this evening? Seeing none. The next, I do have a couple. Sorry. I just about kept moving. First off, I would like to welcome Anne to Loyalist Township, and I'm sorry. Could you? Thank you. So this is actually her first day at Loyalist Township as the township clerk, and jumping in with both feet right at your first council meeting as well. So welcome to Loyalist Township. We appreciate, we look forward to working with you. And then the final one that I have is Brandy, our deputy clerk. This is her last official council meeting. She she's been with Loyalist 7 years now, and it's been an honor to watch you grow in the position as deputy clerk. And I know for me, being on committees, which we both worked on, you're a great asset. And I really appreciated the work that was performed and the help that you gave me with all of the work that we did as well. But you're spreading your wings, and you've got a great prospect at Stone Mills Township as the clerk. And I believe that you'll do well there. And knowing some of the staff and the council members that are there, I believe that you will fit in very well and do a great job. So if I could just take a moment. I'm just going to present Brandy with a flower for her years of service with Loyalist Township. Okay. So that was the end of members' privilege. There's nothing further. The last item is a confirmatory bylaw. Do we have a mover? Deputy Mayor, so moved, seconded by Councillor Parks. All in favor? Please raise a hand. Motion has passed. We have the upcoming meeting dates for the rest of November and December, and a motion to adjourn. Councillor Willis, seconded by Councillor Broderick. All in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. We are adjourned at 9:11.